Hello, everyone. First off, let there be some light there. That's a little bit better. Whew. I was like, that's a little dark. I forgot to hit that button. Welcome to Gaarawarr's Guide, our deep dive show on Saturdays. I'm your host, Gaarawarr, and get a little better situated here. Uh, Today, we're doing Gaarawarr's Guide to patrons. So strap in, because we got a lot to go over. Yeah, for some reason I was loading in this time gate, and it wanted to take forever and ever and ever. Uh, so I had to wait for the music to come on. Apologies, apologies, apologies. I didn't think anybody would want to just sit there and look at the loading screen with no audio. Let us get out of the time gate, and we'll hop out here to the main map. For those of you who haven't been here before, on our Saturday shows for Gaarawarr's Guide to whatever specific topic we're doing, we basically do a deep dive into one specific topic. Today it's patrons. I'll spend the first hour, roughly, going over all our patrons over here, and just patron stuff in general. And then you can post questions in chat. Just follow the rules down there. Put question, colon, and then your question. That way, the wonderful Jay, who's working on the C&E Games account, will be able to grab those questions and throw them into a little document for me so I can read them all off to you later. That way I don't miss anything in chat. Because again, for the first hour or so, I'm just talking about patrons. Second half of the show will be a Q&A. Ooh, light's a little bright for me. Tearing up, folks. So we will do the Q&A in the second half, in that way. We hopefully get through all the questions, but we make sure we cover everything we need to on the topic as succinctly as possible. So let's dive in, shall we? I actually probably will go over to my other account here in a moment. But first, I need to update that. Patrons. What even are patrons? Is probably the first question most people ask when they hear people talking about them the very first time. Patrons are basically another layer of content and progression that is added on top of the regular game you know and love. So, normally you run through your campaigns like a Grand Tour, Tomb of Annihilation, Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate, and the new Icewind Dale, Realm of the Frost Maiden. And at each stop of the way, you're doing adventures. But along with these base adventures, which are shown here, these are your basic adventures. After you complete them, you unlock the ability to do variants of those adventures. But once you've done these variants, you can't do them again, generally speaking. What patrons do is they allow you to then, when you activate them, they enable those variants to be done again, but with higher level requirements and more restrictions. So each patron is going to have its own set of restrictions, and this makes this. Hold on. This makes the content doing them a second time more difficult and more challenging, and gives you a little different taste of what it's like to do that specific variant and you get rewards for it, and we'll go over all of that stuff. Why do patrons even exist? Well, they didn't for a long time. These are a newer addition to the game. We as the first two were Mert over here on the right and Vajra. So as if you know your lore at all, you'll know they're very closely associated with Waterdeep. So those are our, Waterdeep quote unquote patrons. So we've had them for about a year or so, and they added a new one, which is Strahd, and he is linked to our Sword Coast campaign via Barovia. And they plan on adding more and more patrons over time, but basically they were added in because the community had always wanted a way to play variants over again. May not have been exactly what we were thinking, but they did give us a different way to do that. It adds another path for power progression, like I mentioned before, which we'll go over. And it actually allows you to buy a lot of things that they hadn't really put in the game for currency at all previously. Or they had some, but they didn't want to add more, and they've created new ways to buy different kinds of things. And we'll go over all of that. So how do you access your patrons? Well, when you start off, it's not going to look like this. So I'm going to hop over to a brand new account. Well, not brand new, but a newer account as it loads in. Where are we at? Haha, there we go. So if you haven't actually unlocked patrons at all, when you're on the map screen, there's nothing over here. It's not even going to show it to you, right? It just shows you your normal adventures, like we talked about, and the variants, any variants that you haven't done. I always hide my completed, so I know at a glance, what I still have to do. But when you hop into an adventure, there's a little patron button up here. If you click it, it's going to list off all of the patrons that are available so far. And it's going to have a little lock symbol because you haven't unlocked any of them yet. So each patron is going to have their own requirements to unlock. We'll go over that. And once you've met them and you meet all of these things, they all light up with the little green arrow, and you click unlock, that's going to then activate them for use in your main campaigns. So at that point, once you've activated them, well, let's just touch on the requirements at first. So Mert is kind of considered to be the starter patron, as it will. He wants you to have 2,000 loot levels, which is an odd way of referring to what the rest of the community refers to as item levels. So this is on your gear. So if you look on your gear, when you hover over a piece, it says there's a level to it, like level 9, level 6, level 10. So Mert adds all of these up across all of the champions you own and all of their gear levels. And he wants you to have a total of 2,000. So basically he's saying you need to be, I use this a lot lately, you need to be at least this tall to ride this ride, right? Like he wants you to have a certain amount of power before you access what he has to offer. Another thing which I have completed is you must have 20 champions unlocked. And of course you pick up new champions via time gates and events. So I have met that on this newer account. This is about a 5-week-old account, which is why I don't have anything unlocked yet. You also have to spend. He has costs associated with this initial unlock. You have to spend 3 time gate pieces and 10 silver chests to unlock him. Now this is a one-time cost. Okay, so you don't every time you use him, you don't have to throw 3 time gate pieces at him. We get some people that think that that's how that works, and it's not. Once you've accessed him, you have access forever. It's basically, think of it as, Mert is this kind of famous character in the Forgotten Realms, and he's been around a while. He's friends notably with Elminster, and does a lot in Waterdeep. He's one of the Masked Lords, or at least was at one point, and may still be, who knows. He spent a lot of time, spoiler lore alert, he spent a lot of time inside a magical weapon that he was trapped in, so he's lived a very long time, and probably longer than he should, and etc., etc. So who knows what he actually still is or isn't anymore. But Mert is basically, you need to come up and make an offering to him to get in his good graces. That offering is 3 time gate pieces and 10 silver chests. And he won't even talk to you if you haven't met these requirements, right? Once you've met them, you can unlock him. Now, he has, we'll go talk about his restrictions here in a second. These restrictions are basically every champion every patron is going to have a set of restrictions. For Mert specifically, the restriction is only good or evil champions can be used. He basically wants you to quit sitting on the fence, like make a decision. Are you a good person or are you a bad person? If you've made that decision, then you can work for him. And what that means is when you go to do a variant while he is active, the only champions you will be able to use are ones that are good or evil. And that's on top of any of the other restrictions that occur in a variant. And we'll look at that in a moment. Now, Vajra is currently what we consider to be the next kind of progression step in the patron system. Vajra wants you specifically to have completed 15 adventures in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. It says with no patron. What this means is, it doesn't mean you have to you have to wait and do Vajra first because you can't have a patron. It means that it's not going to count patron variants as completions. So when it says 15 adventures with no patron, it means when you're doing it means you need to just basically come over here and do 15 of the adventures, in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Uh, instead of doing 15 patron variants in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Now it's kind of a moot point because if you've done 15 patron variants there, uh, that means you'll probably have done, well, you might have only done like 5 adventures, but it depends. The point is you need to just go play through an adventure, like a campaign, and do adventures to even make patrons useful. So she's kind of trying to point that out to you. You also must have 30 champions unlocked. I haven't met that requirement yet, but hopefully soon. Doesn't matter because I still haven't done, as you noticed, anything in Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And then her one-time costs for access to everything she has to offer is 2,500 gems and 15 silver chests. Not too horrible. Her restrictions, though, she only wants champions with a Constitution score of 14 or higher. So she's got some pretty solid restrictions. For some people, it depends on how far you are in the game. Now, some characters do have a lot of Constitution, and especially some of what are currently the meta characters, but that can always change over time. Plus, you're not necessarily always allowed, because you're doing variants, you're not always allowed to use, your favorite champions. So when you're combining this requirement with everything that the variants are, sometimes you end up with a very small pool of champions. This is why she wants you to have at least 30 unlocked already. Now, Strahd is currently our highest level patron in terms of difficulty. You have to have completed Towering Expectations with no patron. What the heck is that, folks? I wouldn't even know on this account. So let me hop over to my main account. Now, if we hop over into Barovia, this all kind of makes sense. You have a set of adventures through Barovia that twist and wind through the fog and end up over here. Towering Expectations is the final adventure in Barovia, in the Barovian arc of the Sword Coast. So basically, you have to have come here and completed this, which basically means you have to have completed the entire Barovian arc to access Strahd as a patron. Kind of makes sense. He isn't going to respect you if you haven't, put him in his place, which is effectively what you're doing in Towering Expectations, or at least attempting to momentarily. It is Strahd, right? So he wants you to complete the whole Barovian story arc. He wants you to have 40 champions unlocked. And again, this comes down to his restrictions. You need to have a large pool of champions to make him work, and even then, sometimes, because he is our currently most difficult champion, even having all the champions might not be enough. His one-time costs are 10 medium bounty contracts and 20 silver chests. So the costs are, going up a little bit with each one. He only wants champions who are intelligent. If you don't register on his scale of intelligence, if he can't have a decent conversation with you, you're not invited to his party, basically, is what he's telling you. These are currently the only 3 patrons we have. But just to jump out ahead here a bit, there will be more patrons. CNE has said that they will be adding more patrons. They have even, in fact, confirmed that one patron in the future specifically for, as we talked about, these are like the Waterdeep patrons. This is the Sword Coast patron. The Descent into Avernus patron supposedly will be Zariel, but whether it's a good Zariel or a bad Zariel, we don't know. But we won't receive that patron until we've actually finished all of the Descent into Avernus story arc, and we are not done yet. So no ETA on that. So that's kind of the first part. This is basically the screen you're going to see as a new player until you unlock them. Now there is an in-game fact. There are in-game facts for most things, and they're going to cover a lot of these the basic questions that we're going to go over today. But hopefully this will help to explain some of the more nuanced stuff. So early on, you're not really going to have access to them. I don't necessarily think you should rush towards access to this. Again, this does unlock a whole new, effectively, content system that is based off the base game. So if you have not completed lots of variants in the various campaigns, you're not going to have a whole lot to do with patrons, because you are literally redoing variants you've already completed, but with higher restrictions and more restrictions and higher goals. And let's go take a look at some of those. So if we hop back in, oh no, I hopped out. Okay, we're good. Let's activate Mert. So this is how you activate a patron. You just basically click over here. You can also remove back to no patron to go back to normal campaign stuff. But once you have an active patron, this would be more useful if I hadn't already completed all of Mert's stuff. But basically your map will light up with green. Have I done them all? Here we go. So you'll see these nodes, these normal variant nodes that you see pop up, light up, and it says, hey, you still have to do this variant. And it says at the top now, Mert the Moneylender. So it makes it clear, this is Mert the Moneylender's Zapper Overload. This is not your mama's Zapper Overload. This is a variant that not a lot of people like in the first place, and then to do them with patrons, even less enjoyable for some people. The completion area went up. I believe it would have been like 450 to start, and I think it goes up by about 25. I could be losing my mind. But you're going to see the amounts go up by about 25. If we actually hop over here and I activate Vajra and come back and look at Zapper Overload, you'll see now it's 500. So this is what I mean when I say each specific patron gets a little more difficult, because they want you to go a little further each time. And if we look at Strahd, oh, I already did it. Okay, there we go. 525 is the normal requirement. And if we actually just hop back out all the way, we can look and see what is the normal requirement. 375. So it hops up by a... Oh, jeez. See, I got to fiddle with this. So it starts at 375, it hops up to 475. So this one, it jumps 100, right? So you're going to see this kind of difficulty go up and up and up. Avernus is a very hard campaign, so this makes a lot of sense that it's going to jump super deep. But keep in mind, these are the normal variant rules. These are the rules the first time you played it. But now in this gold or yellow, whichever color you want to refer to it as, it's going to also say, hey, this restriction also applies. And that's going to change a lot of what you're able to use, right? So you go in, this already says only champions with strength of 13 or higher can be used, but now it's strength of 13 or higher and only good or evil. So again, much bigger restrictions when you're talking about patron use. Now, when you hop into a mission, we're not going to hop into a patron mission. I'm just going to hop into a generic adventure so we can access... the patron shop here. Let me throw in... I'll load in a formation. Now, as with regular campaigns... Oh, it looks like I'm using everybody somewhere else. That's fine. As with regular campaigns, in a regular campaign, you have formation saves, and you get 50 per campaign. Well, you also get, when you load in Mert, which is where we are, and Sword Coast, which is where we are, you get 50 more, right? Just for Mert. So you can save up your specific formation specifically for your Mert free plays and challenges and variants and things that we're going to go over here in a moment. So you're not using up slots from your regular campaign. You get a whole new batch of formation saves, and you're going to want to use them so that you have some things that you can just fire up right away when you access them. Now, let's take a look at what this screen turns into once you activate a patron. So as you can see, we get the same information over here. We get, some general info on Mert and then what his restrictions are. But now we have a stats page. One of the few stats pages we have in the game. It tracks a couple things. One, it says under currency, it tracks influence and ruby coins. So influence is to patrons what favor is to main campaigns, right? Influence is what you earn as you play through. And then you were going to use that influence as a currency, but also as a gate. We'll look at that in a second. And then ruby coins are your actual kind of spending currency for items in the shop, which we'll look at. But you get a lot of stats about what you've done and where you are. So it's going to track the number of variants you've completed. I've completed most of them, not all, as you saw. I've done a lot of patron free plays. We'll talk about why that number is so high in a moment. It tells you the amount of total influence you've earned over time. This is the influence earned for any specific patron is a fixed amount. You cannot, unlike with favor in a campaign, you can't just go do free plays and more influence. It's actually you earn a fixed amount every time you complete a variant, and that's it. So you are limited by the number of variants in the game as to how much influence you can earn. We have total Ruby coins earned because, again, Ruby coins are actually a limited currency as well. We'll talk about some of that. And then it tells you how much you've spent out of those. How many challenges you've completed. There's a tab up here for that. We're going to talk about that in a moment. How much of your coinage you've earned from those challenges, because challenges are a delivery system for coins. And how much you've earned from free plays, because that's one of the other delivery systems for coins. And then how much you've earned this week. Now, why does it tell you on a weekly basis? Well, it tells you on a weekly basis because, again, this is a limited amount. You can't just run an infinite amount of free plays and earn an infinite amount of Ruby coins. They limit you to a max from free plays to 5,000. Okay, let's see if we are back. Any day now? Any day now? Hey! Are we live? Man. So that was not my internet, folks. That's apparently a Streamlabs issue. I apologize. I was just on a roll and was talking and talking and talking, and Streamlabs wasn't throwing me any errors. So, Jay says that I disappeared when I was talking about the limit of influence. The how influence is limited in the campaigns. Tell me in chat if that's the last thing you saw or not, because I'll have to back up a bit. But let's get some confirmation just to make sure. Yeah, okay. Okay. Hey, limit of influence or limit of currency? All right, well, I'll back up a bit. We'll talk about the weekly cap. Just started talking about Ruby currency. Wow. Okay. I apologize, folks. I do not know what is going on there. I haven't had that specific issue pop up in Streamlabs for a while now. So, let's go back. Weekly patron currency and weekly influence. So influence, I will just cover influence again real quick. Influence is capped out based off the number of variants there are. Each variant offers a certain amount of influence. Your Ruby coin currency, you can earn up to 5,000 a week just from free plays. But then challenges will also reward you patron currency as well. And if we go look, no, I don't want that. If we hop over here, you'll see you get some Ruby coinage from finishing this, as well as a huge chunk of influence. So you can get them in a couple different ways, but it is all limited, and you need to keep that in mind. And now I've lost my train of thought. All right, we're just gonna dive back in. So if I double up on some of this, I apologize, but I want to make sure we hit all the topics. I'm getting an update. Hold on, I'm good to go. Oh, okay. Okay, so if I need to go a little long, we can go a little long, is what I'm being told. All right, so we will do that. Jay, if you just want to post in chat about how long I was gone, then I'll know about how long I need to make up here. All right. Wow, did I go over perks at all, folks? Did it really cut out everything like about perks? About 25 minutes. Oh. And I'm getting an echo. Okay. Where is the echo coming from? We're doing it. We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live. Nothing about perks yet. Okay. Okay. Wow. That was 25. I was talking that whole 25 minutes, folks. Literally going through everything. All right. Okay. Is anyone else hearing an echo in chat, or is that just Jay? Yeah, it's not like I was. It's not like I was frantically trying to do stuff. I literally was just doing the thing. I was doing the thing. Echo's gone. Okay. Okay. I reset the. I reset my audio real quick on the fly. So hopefully the echo is gone. Okay. So, whew, let me back up. All right. Perks. So the first tab is perks. We're gonna have to figure an easier way out. I've got this monitor over here. It helps me see messages from Jay, but I see it filling up with stuff all the time because he's adding all of your questions. But then he tries to type in big font, "Hey, there's a problem," and it didn't register. It registered in my peripheral vision as more questions. All right, so perks. Perks are your progression system, basically, with patrons. So this is the power and progression, much like with blessings and divine favor. You're going to earn that influence, basically, from going out and doing those variants. You can only earn influence from variants. And then you're going to come here to the perks tab and you're going to spend it. If you'll note, it's going to tell you how much you've spent and how much you have left, as just like with blessings. If you should be familiar with that system, hopefully by now. It's also going to give you local and global versions. So the local is going to apply specifically to Mert as a patron. So when you're doing his specific variants, you're going to get specifically power from this column applying only there. If you hop over and you do Vajra Strahd or you go back to your regular campaign, nothing on this side will help you out at all. That's where the global comes in. As you'll note, these are much higher levels on the left than they are on the right. And don't freak out. You do see me hitting this reset button. I wouldn't be doing that on blessings because blessings cost you a bit of your favor to reset every time. But you don't lose anything when you reset your influence. And that is because this is a fixed currency. You can't just go earn it back. Oh, hey, I have a pop-up. Let me get that pop-up. Hey, yeah, I'm talking about patrons. Apparently, finally, we're live again. Okay. So we've got powerful blessings on the left, but they only apply to the variants for Mert, and strong blessings on the right, but these apply everywhere. So this will apply to your regular campaigns, other patrons, events, time gates, etc. Right? You will level up on the left side. There's going to be requirements here for how much, like, to get to other tiers. You don't have to buy it all. If you just want to focus, and this is kind of the best way to do it, if you just want to focus locally while you're doing these Mertz variants, you can just maximize this local side. And then it says I need 10 more. Well, I don't just want to pick one because the cost is going to go up every time. So I can swap back and forth and spend efficiently over here on the right-hand side until I get to the point where, and I have to pay attention because sometimes it isn't always equal, until I can then max this out again. Right? Because I want all of my power starting off on the left-hand side. Now, when I go, say I want to go back and do regular campaign stuff, or an event comes up and I want that power, I can just reset and maximize the right-hand side and just minimize my spending in the left-hand side and get whatever power I can carry over at that time to the right. And basically, you just keep doing that all the way until you're maxed out, like we are over here. There is enough patron influence in the game currently to fill out all 5 tiers of your perks, so you don't have to worry about that. When it first came out, you couldn't, but now we're good. Now we can just go whole hog and pick it all up. All right. So that's perks. We'll talk about specifically maybe some of these specific perks in a bit. We'll come back to that. But the shop is the next step. So the shop is where you spend all of these coins you're earning. Again, from doing free plays or from completing variants. Again, there's a nice chunk you get from each variant, and also from completing challenges, which we'll talk about momentarily. In the shop, you have a variety of things you can purchase. So right off, you can buy patron chests. So patron chests are going to include gear for any champion that qualifies for that patron. That includes your core and evergreen as well as your event champions. So this is a great way to gear out your event champions year round. You don't have to wait for their event. You don't need to run a time gate. You can buy a patron chest. It is obviously very large pool of champions that can qualify. But there's ways you can reduce that pool. You can pull all of the core and evergreen champs out by just by not opening these chests until you've opened up all of your regular gold chests and have all your core evergreens and full epics. Well, then you're still going to get, duplicate drops out of these, but anytime you hit an epic, it will then only go to an event champion. So there's ways you can kind of make these chests work. You can also sometimes equip or unequip feats that apply stats. That doesn't work for Mert because he's good and evil, but it could potentially work over here, right? To either qualify or disqualify certain champions. So like usually if you get an int feat for like Zorbu that everybody wants so that he can qualify for Strahd, when you go to open up a Strahd chest, if you're already fully epic in Zorbu, you take the feat off and then open the chest, and the gear is going to go to everybody else, right? So that's one way you can manipulate kind of these chests and use them effectively. Now you can also buy them for cash. You can just straight up, support the game for cash. They also offer a couple right at the top items like the starter pack that's going to give you 42 Mert chests, some supply chests, and a bunch of his ruby coinage. Or this cool Steampunk Zorbu skin, where if you don't own Zorbu, you're going to get him, plus some of his chests, his specific chests, and some ruby coins. Those are neat. But then below that, we get into consumables. So everything you're going to see down here in terms of these consumables is the same for each champion. So every champion is going to offer you the ability to buy one time gate piece a week. It is limited, as you see, remaining purchases this week, 0, because I already bought one. Lots of potions. These potions are limited. These are the epic potions. These are 2, limited to 2 each week. You can buy a Modron component chest once a week from each patron. You can't get these any other way. Like you can get them leveling up your core, but then once you've maxed your core out, there's no other way to gain them other than patrons, unless you're buying them for cash. And then these gold boxed ones down here, each patron has a set of unique items that you can purchase from them. Well, except for the potion of polish, that's not unique, but it is a one-time purchase. These are all one-time purchases. There are going to be multiple feats to buy. Again, this potion of polish, which turns something into a shiny, it gives it that 50% bonus. There's going to be a couple skins to buy that aren't available any other way. And here's some more feats. There's a familiar. Each patron is going to be able to sell you a familiar. And each patron now, at the very most recent addition that we've had to this, is there are GEs for some of the evergreens. So Mertz is for Ikoria. So once you buy these, you can't buy them again. You can't get these any other way. So this is just something you can work towards and earn. Now, one thing you don't see here under all these purchases, it looks like, oh, you can just buy them freely. Well, you can't. This influence is listed up here for a reason. You have to reach certain influence levels to unlock each of these. So if I didn't have the influence for this stuff below a time gate piece, it would show up grayed out like this. Even if I met all the other, even if I've got the currency, even if I haven't bought any this week, you have to reach a certain level of influence to be able to make a purchase. So it's going to track that up here. And if you'll note, it says 1.62 EO7. If I come back over here, well, but I only have 1.53. I spent some. Well, that's because it's tracking your maximum. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I went and spent some in perks, and now I can't unlock something in the shop. That's not how it works. It's just earning. It's looking at the total you've earned over time, and it's all you're going to be limited in purchases once you've reached that kind of high watermark is your ruby coins, like how many of these spendable currency you have. So feel free to max out, you know, feel free to perk up, as it were, for this, and grab your stuff that way. So once you've unlocked the influence, make sure you're spending on a power, and once you've unlocked stuff over here and qualify, purchase the things you need, but don't necessarily just purchase stuff because you can. For instance, Mert patron chests are 5,000 coins. Potions of specialization are 5,000 coins. Little overpriced. Unlimited purchase. I don't know really. I don't know really why this is like this, but yeah, maybe not the best purchase, right? And maybe don't go stocking up on potions. Buy it if you need it. If you're in a run and you're like, oh, I could really use an epic giant strength or fire breath, or I'm doing a favor farm and I didn't realize I'm out of potions of clairvoyance, that's when you would make a purchase. But don't necessarily spend that, because again, you get a limited amount of these each week. So you have to be careful how you spend it, and you are going to want to start saving up for some of these bigger purchases, right? Like this one's 50,000 for a familiar. That's going to take a bit, because you can only get 5,000 from a free play. You can get we'll go over here to challenges. You can get about 5,000 out of challenges plus a bit, if I remember my math correctly. Which is a good segue into challenges. Challenges is the other way you can earn ruby coins each week. See, there's a list of a group of challenges. Each patron is going to have a different list. But the rewards are going to vary from easy things to giving you 250 currency, all the way up to the more difficult stuff, giving you 750. These reset every week on Monday at noon. A lot of us refer to them as our weekly chores instead of our weekly challenges, because it's things that we have to go out and do and be like, oh, I don't want to do this, because some of them are really annoying. I don't really have any super annoying ones in this week for Mert, but each patron is going to have their own. So you're going to get things like complete area 200 or higher, defeat a certain number of enemies of a specific type, complete a certain number of areas without a specific champions. That's always the interesting and somewhat annoying one. Maybe open a Vajra chest. Some people see this one as different ways, right? Like you're getting a bonus, you're getting currency, so some people see it as a discount, like they get to open a chest and it's cheaper this week. I see it as forcing me to spend my hoard, but to each their own. And then you'll get like huge ones like complete 1,000 areas with certain people, versus reach 250 reset, at 250 plus. These are different, and they're worth noting. This does say reset in area 250 plus, so at least like area 251 with someone as your highest total damage dealer. And it's going to tell you who your highest total damage dealer is, which is good to know, because it isn't just who's setting your bud, it is highest total damage, so it's going to add that up over time. Whereas these say complete 1,000 areas, so I can actually do these 1,000 areas in 10 groups of 100 if I want, or 20 groups of 50, or 34 groups of 30, whatever, if that works out. Whatever assortment and array you want to do your complete 1,000 areas with, you can. Whereas these specifically, you have to, because it has the plus, the reset and 250 plus, you have to reach 251 with this person as showing up as your currently highest damage dealer. So keep that in mind. They're not as difficult as they look when they're these huge numbers. It's just time consuming. And Modron automation can help a lot with that now. Especially since you're doing challenges for all three of your patrons, right? And then we see some others over here, like reach the weekly free play cap, which some of these are pretty straightforward, and you're going to get just as you're attempting to do your challenges. Now you'll see again, these look like these are fixed amounts. There is actually a way to get more currency off your challenges. So if we come back to Mert, one of the first kind of targets for Mert when you're leveling up should be challenge accepted. So this increases the amount of patron challenge reward earned by 0.5% per increment. So if we max this out, we're going to get 20% more of those of that currency based off completing those challenges. There, we're maxed out. We come back over here, it actually shows you. So we're going to get 300 instead of 250, 600 instead of 500, and 900 instead of 750. So this is a way to make extra currency, 20% more, off these challenges each week. So that's kind of the first thing that once you start doing MERT, if you want to work towards challenge accepted as a perk, because it's going to help you purchase all of the things in the shop and then start banking stuff up to make other purchases, right? So keep that in mind. Look at that as kind of that first target. And then, wherever you go from there is fine. But, if you can get this maxed out, I remember reaching this and maxing it out and feeling like, yay. And at that point, it was definitely a lot easier to make purchases each week because, I had a bit more. Obviously, it's, 20%. If you're getting 5,000 off that, it's, it's only an extra 1,000. But it does add up week over week. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of, if we go to the shop, I do have quite a bit of coinage banked for each of the champions. I'm a little lower on Vajra, but that's because I fully epicked out an event champion by buying lots of Vajra chests because they qualified for Vajra, right? So that's what they're there for, and that's why I save it up to spend. So keep that in mind. Let's see. So we've got challenges, we got the shop, we got perks. I think I may have caught up through that a little quicker than I went through it the last time. But I am totally off my game now since I was offline, so I hope I made it through everything and didn't skip anything. Let me double check my list here. Let's just hop down to frequently asked questions. So should I rush? A lot of questions that we get this question a lot. Should I rush my first patron unlock? And again, we talked about how Mert is usually the first patron you're going to reach, and probably the best one to start with. Because everything that you're doing with Mert and with patrons in general is based off what you've completed in your main campaign, it may not always be best to rush that unlock, or even best to unlock it immediately. A lot of people say you should unlock it right away so that you can start banking up your time gate pieces. Well, again, as we talked about, make an informed decision on your own, but keep in mind you do have to have a certain amount of influence to unlock your first time gate piece, like to even have this be here, and you're going to have enough coinage each week to make this purchase, which means you're going to be spending time either completing challenges or doing free plays, right? Again, 5,000 is the max that you can earn from free plays. You get 2 per level. So there's 2,500 levels you're going to run in free plays. And sure, you could, while you're doing that, you're probably going to fill out a lot of these, or at least some of these challenges along the way. But there is that kind of time sink nature of making this purchase every week. And there is that requirement of being able to complete variants for Mert, which are, again, a higher level requirement and more restriction because he's going to limit you to good and evil champions. So just because you've completed a lot of regular variants in the main campaign doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to complete those same variants with these restrictions. So keep that in mind. So it is good to go in and know you have a good amount of power. That's why Mert wants those loot levels and why he wants you to have a certain number of champions. But you need to make sure you're going to be able to flesh out a formation for those variants that can do enough damage to complete those new higher requirements. The only way to find out if you can do that is to try it. But keep in mind, this game puts some variants available to you early on that aren't really easy. And I think if you remember starting the game with Cursed Farmer and then you tried to do the Arya Chicken variant, it's kind of in the name. They're daring you to play it. Are you chicken? Are you chicken? Yeah, you should be. This is one of the more difficult variants in the game, and it's the very first variant the game ever gives you. It is especially difficult for patrons because you're restricted to only 5 characters, and they can only be good or evil, right? So keep in mind that just because a variant is here at the beginning of a campaign doesn't mean it's easy. So you're going to want to bounce around and find things that you can easily complete to unlock your patron currency and to unlock your influence and to make some currency. So if you can do those things, if you feel confident that you've got the power to do that, then go ahead and unlock it. But if you're not entirely sure, if you're still having troubles with basic games or with like basic adventures and some of the variants, like making sure you can complete them, then it may not be a good idea to just rush headlong into patrons, because you might unlock it and then it just sits there somewhat unused because you just don't have the power to complete it. So let us see. Next frequently asked question: which patron should I unlock first? Well, we kind of talked about that. It really comes down to some people, because of the loot level requirements, item level requirements for Mert. Some people actually unlock Vajra first. I think this comes down to, I'm just going to say it, improper spending of gems. They're probably saving up gems and buying familiars, like instead of buying chests for gear. So hit up that gems visual aid, !GVA in chat. Mars and I made a guide that talks about, how to efficiently spend your gems, and that should take care of that issue. But if you are ever faced with the fact that you have qualified for Vajra before you've qualified for Mert, just know Vajra is a much more difficult patron to complete things for, in terms of the level requirement that you have to get to, and potentially in terms of the champions available. That's going to just depend on your champion pool. Some of the more meta champions are available in Vajra and not Mert, but it's just going to depend on your pool. But I definitely recommend starting with Mert, again, because kind of that first goal I feel you want to hit is challenge accepted. So unlocking Mert and working towards challenge accepted, it's just going to get you more currency every week from all the patrons. So it feels like a great place to start. Whereas she doesn't have something like that available. So keep that in mind. Let's see, next question. Frequently asked questions. Why are some variants impossible to do? Like, are you chicken? For one. Are you chicken really? Well, all of them, to a certain degree, come down to how much of the perks you've earned. So some variants early on are going to seem like they're absolutely impossible, and that's because you haven't built up a lot of local perks yet. As you flesh this out and fill it all the way up, as you can see, like we've got more damage. Like this is for male champions, so there's another 1500 damage to like Zorbu or Hitch if you're using them. And then if we come all the way down here, this is for just event champions in general. So there's another, $2,000 for Zorbu. So the more of these local blessings that you fill out, the further you're going to be able to push in those variants. So it may be that you need to skip some of those early variants because they're super difficult and seem impossible. And then after you've picked up done a lot more of the easier variants along the way, and picked up a lot more of these local blessings, go back and try them again. It's most likely going to turn out that now you can complete a lot of them. And there will still be some that you can't complete, because then you're going to need to go do another patron stuff and fill out global blessings, right? Because again, these global blessings are going to carry over into those other patron things. And then you can come back to Mert stuff that you weren't able to finish, and then you can start working your way through those again, right? So it's all about overall progress. If it feels impossible, find a way to get yourself more. Sorry for all the clicking, but find yourself. I can't just hold it down, which is what I really want to do, right? And it doesn't work that way. Find yourself a way to get more power for your champions and be able to unlock everything. Okay. And it doesn't have to be perks. It can be your blessings if you haven't fleshed those out. It can be your new Modron cores and getting those in full epic, like, making sure that you're slotting your Modron core into your variant group. Ooh, I'm almost at 15, folks. I'm excited. But maxing this out is going to get you lots of power as well. And then you can go back and try to do those more difficult variants. I did that recently after Modrons came out. I went back and there were a lot of Strahd ones because he's the hardest patron to make happy and complete variants on. There were a lot that I just couldn't do before, and after I had gotten to about level 10 or 12 on my Modron core, I went back through and started doing his patron variants and was able to actually finish them. There are a couple of patron variants, notably A Tale of Two Champions, which are less about the power you have in blessings and perks and stuff, and more about your gold find, although some blessings and perks do increase gold find, because they just want you to click your way through them. Currently, there isn't any way to just 2 champion run through something like that. Am I buffering? Are we having issues? Are we having issues? Hmm. Hold on. Are we back? Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Streamlabs is not throwing me any issues. If we're back, I would say, and you're running into quality issues. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing, and I'm not sure why. All right, give me 1 second. It's showing up fine in my Streamlabs, but let me kill my camera and restart it. So I'm gonna disappear for a second, folks. I'll be back. I'll be back. Come on, load in. And we'll see if that fixes anything. Otherwise, my camera just may be blurry. But that's okay. If you can see the game and you can hear me, I think that's the most important part of this. All right. Let us try again. Okay. So, looking at some of the more impossible variants. So, there are some very difficult variants in Strahd that limit you to just like your core champions or the first 9 champions. Getting new event champions doesn't help. It's all about getting super amounts of power, and your Modron core can help with that in some cases. In other cases, you know, sometimes there's just going to be some variants that are incredibly impossible to do at our current capabilities, and maybe there will be new blessings or perks that come in the future, or who knows what that'll make those completable. And so sometimes you're just going to have to wait. All right. So, another frequently asked questions. Can you max out all the perks? This was a question a lot early on when patrons first came out, because you couldn't. There just weren't enough variants in the game for you to actually get everything filled out. But now you can, currently, with all the tier 5, with 5 tiers of blessings. You can max them all out as long as you're completing a good chunk. Like you've seen, I'm at like, over 95%, I think, for all, or over 90% at least for all the patrons. So you're going to have to do a good chunk of them. The more difficult, or the further into the campaign the variant comes, the more, in general, the more influence you're going to get. So if you are really powerful, you can do them kind of in reverse order and get a lot more early. But at the end of the day, you're going to need to do the bulk of them to max everything out anyway. If they ever add a 6th tier to patron perks, which, whew, I mean, that would be a lot of power. Then it may cost a lot more, and we may have to get into that stage again where we have to wait for them to add more variants. But remember, every time they add more variants to the game, you have more to do in your patrons. I'm actually behind on that. I keep forgetting to go back because I have all my perks now. I'm not as motivated to do all the variants. And then I listed a little cheeky question for myself. Why are potions of specialization so expensive compared to other items? I don't know, CNE. Why? Please, for the love of God, tell me why. Because it's 5,000 currency for a patron chest. It's 5,000 currency for a potion of specialization. One of these things is not like the other. These are actually supposedly common items. They show up as green. And yet they're priced 2.5 times the cost of an epic. I don't know, folks. I don't know. Keep asking CNE, and maybe they'll tell us. Some tips and tricks for patrons before we maybe look a little closer at patron perks in general. Maybe, I think our time's probably... We are going to go a bit over so I can make up the time that I apparently disappeared into the ether. But we'll see. So tips and tricks. First up, make sure you've completed a lot of variants in a couple campaigns before unlocking a patron. That's just my general recommendation. On my new player account, which I just started, if we hop over and take a look, I am still, like I said, about 800 item levels away from unlocking Mert. But I have, in terms of progress, I've got like the tier 1 global in Sword Coast. and some stuff in the tier 2 locals, right? I basically unlocked Dritz, and then I hopped over to Tomb of Annihilation. Now in Tomb of Annihilation, I am almost completely maxed on blessings. I've pushed all the way through. I still don't have Mert unlocked, right? But I've completed all of the main adventures in the campaign, the main story adventures in Tomb of Annihilation. And now I'm going back and I'm getting variants to be able to unlock Azaka. So I will have a pretty good amount. Let's see where we're at. I'm at 27 out of 30 completed to start Azaka's Procession Part 1. So I've made a good amount of progress through a couple different campaigns, and I'm knocking out some variants, which is important because you need those variants to be able to actually do Patron variants, right? You have to have completed the regular one before you can do the Patron version. So, go out, spread your wings, explore all the different places, and, complete a bunch of variants, and then focus on your patron. Don't just rush to a patron. Combine multiple objectives. Second tip, combine multiple objectives when doing patron challenges for maximum effectiveness. So this is a big deal. The amount of time it takes you to do your patron chores each week is directly dependent on how efficiently you combine some of this stuff. So everybody's going to do it different ways, and some people are going to automate it in the background or just have stuff in the background and automate it in the foreground. And, everyone does it differently. It used to take about 2.5 to 3 days to do everything before mode drawn automation and multi-party mode. Now I can finish everything in about a day and a half. But that's because I have a very powerful account, right? I can blow through this stuff very quickly. Some people, it's going to take a lot longer to do these things on. You have to keep that in mind. But you can combine a lot of this stuff right off the bat. So what I do is I will start a free play run in Mad Wizard, because gem farming always. And in that run, I will look at, what do I need? I need 1,000 areas with Bruno, Dritz, and Calliope. So I'll throw those 3 into my formation, along with a bunch of speed champions. And then it also wanted Warden as my highest DPS. So I would throw Warden in. I would make my formation set up so Warden is my DPS. And then I would run super far. I would have familiars on my ultimates. And if this says distractions, yes, distractions, I would make sure there's 6 familiars on the field, right? Again, this is with an account that has lots of familiars to use this way. And then that way I'm getting a bunch of stuff done at once, right? I'm definitely going deeper than 200 because I'm going to go to 250 plus. I'll be killing humanoid enemies. I'll be killing distractions. I'll be killing bosses. I'll be getting gems from bags along the way. Warden is a support champion, so you could do that. I got both of those at once. I'd be killing Fey enemies. I'd be firing off ultimate attacks, and I'd be working on this. But by making this my primary focus for 1,000 areas, I can start on this and fill out all of this along the way, right? So after I got these achievements, I could build I could add somebody other than Warden if I wanted. Or I can just keep resetting and doing all of these. And all of the rest of this is going to fill in automatically over time. So that's one way to do them kind of efficiently. Another is if you're still in the process of doing variants to try to earn perks, then just keep doing your variants, because a lot of these work, as it says here, in variants or free plays. So you can finish some of these challenges just by trying to make progress by completing variants. Keep that in mind. Some of these specifically say free plays, though. Let me see if there's one here, maybe on... Oh, this one, complete area 200 or higher in any Mert free play. So this one you would have to specifically do in a free play. But, make sure you're checking, because a lot of these you can be working on your variants while also knocking out these challenges. And keep that in mind. And then you do that with each one. You try to make sure that you're looking at how can I combine multiple of these at once, and then try to do that. Sometimes they're going to be opposite. Sometimes it's going to say complete 1,000 areas with Tirograma and Walnut, and also complete 1,000 areas without a tank champion. Well, that means you're doing at least 1,000 areas in variants or free plays, or 2,000 areas, I should say, because they do not qualify. They do not work together. That does sometimes happen, so keep that in mind. So some weeks people groan more in Discord than others because of that. Third tip and trick: prioritize your local perks when doing that patron, and respect to global when doing other things. So I kind of already talked about this before. That's pretty straightforward because it doesn't charge you to reset those things. You can go ahead and bounce back and forth between them. I do wish they would make it a little easier to fill up, and swap between them, but it is what it is. The final tip and trick: get full epic gear on your core evergreen champions before really investing your currency into patron chests. So this is me trying to encourage you to think long term. While you can buy those patron chests and potentially have a chance to get gear for your event champions right away, there's a pool of evergreen and core and evergreen champions that gear could go to, and it is more efficient to remove those champions from that loot pool for epics, because the cost of a patron chest is so high, and it's a limited amount of currency. 5,000 coins in a limited amount of currency is a lot, whereas you can buy tons of gold chests for gems, and gems are an unlimited currency. You can farm Mad Wizard for gems and earn 20,000, 50,000 plus a week if you're doing that. If you're just focusing on that, and you can epic out all of your core and evergreen champions and pull them out of that pool, that epic loot pool from patron chests. At that point, your patron chests, each patron chest becomes more valuable to you because that epic gear, specifically the epics, are going to go out onto those the event champions only. It may toss lower level duplicates to regular champions, like to the core and evergreens, but you're gonna get those specific epic items only on champions that don't have epics. So keep that in mind. I think that's all of my list. I don't know if I said anything else that wasn't part of that when I wasn't here. That's going to be weird. I'm going to have to edit this video now. Normally I just take a VOD and I give it to them and then they put it together, and now I'm going to have to piece this together. Today's going to be fun. Oh, joy for technical difficulties. All right, so I'm going to hit up, you know what, I'm going to move this screen over here, so I'm going to get a little brighter because this is just going to be right in my face. So, questions from chat. I'm going to work my way down through here. We've got a bunch so far. We've got about 24, but I'm going to try to hit the ones that are on patron stuff first. So, fourth patron, question mark. Harko, yes, there will be a fourth patron. As I mentioned earlier, it could potentially, well, I don't know if this was caught on stream or not. They have announced that when we finish the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus campaign, we will get Zariel as a patron, but we don't have an ETA for that. So I don't know if Zariel will be our next patron or just a future patron. No way to know. I believe they did say in a different Q&A, that we probably won't see a new patron in 2020. So there you go. That's just what I know from past answers. Who knows what they're actually going to do. Samron, so do the variants before you get the patron then? Yes. Well, I mean, you could do them after, but if you're spending the money or spending your consumables or your time gate pieces, your chests, whatever, to unlock a patron, and then you have to go back and do the variants, it feels like you wasted kind of that stuff right away. You could have used those time gate pieces to unlock a champion. So yeah, make sure you've done a good amount of the variants in at least one campaign before you go jumping into a patron. Like I said, I've done a decent amount of adventures, a decent amount in Sword Coast, and a bunch in Tomb of Annihilation, but I haven't necessarily done all the variants. I'm still just barely over halfway to Mert, so you can complete a lot of stuff before you unlock patrons. Go ahead and do that. Is there any way to get the currency to show in non-scientific notation, specifically for the influence currency, as I'm not sure how many variants I need to do to get the requirements in the shop? So you can always change your settings here. I keep scientific notation on because It's fine, but you can turn it off, and get everything's going to change, right? 5.5 million, 159,000. Yeah, and then you'll know, it's more comparable to what you're seeing in terms of the shop. But just real quick though, keep in mind 5,000 in scientific notation is 5E03. So what scientific notation does is it's talking about the points, the numbers after the E are how many places you're moving the decimal point to the right. So 5E03 means it's 5,000 because we have a 5, we move the decimal point 3 places to the right, now we're at 5,000. 5E04 would be 50,000, right? That would be this. So, looking at that means, I can buy, a good chunk of these, but you can always change your from scientific notation to regular in the settings. I keep it in scientific notation because it's easier for me to compare numbers for damage and buffs and things by looking at the E. If the E gets bigger, like if I just went from E73 to E75, I know I just did better, right? I don't have to try to remember, well, what's that number? What's a Q, or what's a large Q, or what's a, whatever that, I don't know. I haven't even looked at all the different variants in so long, it doesn't matter. But I also know that, 5E03, that's E05. I can buy a huge, like a large amount of these because I'm multiple E above that, right? But yeah, you can do whichever is easier for you. Why not make Strahd or Vajra cost time gate pieces? Because they chose not to. That's a design decision from Codename Entertainment. Like if we come over here and we look, they're making you give up some progress towards champions. And then this is basically, I look at silver chests as well. I mean, you can loot silver chests, but you can also buy them with gems. So this is just gems regardless. And then this is more gems. And then this is more gems because these come out of gold chests. I mean, it's just an arbitrary cost that they chose to make. I'm not privy to their design decisions for how they wanted to do that. If you get your weekly cap of currency from free plays, then you do the variants. Do you not get the reward of coins? No, that's separate because again, free play cap. That's the terminology we want to remember here. Free play cap is 5,000. Variants are not free plays, so all of those coinage that you get from variants there are a fixed amount because there's a fixed number of variants, but that's all in addition. That's another way to earn ruby coins. It's just limited to how many variants are out there. Gar, you often talk about early, mid, and end game when discussing strategies. Can you give a relatively new player sense of what you think the progression milestones are for those categories? I will talk about, like, in terms of patrons. I mean, we can talk about that in a lot of different ways, but in terms of patron, I think, you're going to unlock, they've kind of given you these arbitrary things, like Mert needs 20 champs, Vajra needs 30, and Strahd needs 40, right? So that's kind of one way to look at your progression, but it's not necessarily based on power. This is kind of just time. In general, I look at kind of like an early game player as somebody who is still learning. Like it's a combination of things. So it's someone who's still learning how to build out formations on their own and not just copy pasting somebody else's effectively. It's someone who can who's learning how to understand difficulty of variants based off what it's telling them. They may not be perfect at it yet, right? But they're still most likely using that rule of thumb that I put out there of, don't do a variant unless it shows as green. They're using that as their basis, but maybe still doing some variants that they didn't really read the restrictions through and are still harder and they can't finish them. Mid game is getting to the point where, like, okay, you're building your own formations, you know how to adjust them. You've probably, the biggest test of what I think of are you in the mid game or not yet is, have you unlocked Dragon Bait? Did you do that? Because that's tough. You have to have a solid knowledge of formation strategy to unlock Dragon Bait and a good amount of power. So getting into that point, like where you've got Azaka, you've unlocked Dragonbait, you're solidly into the mid game there, I think, in my opinion. In game is like you've completed all the campaign, like the regular base campaign stuff. You've completed all the adventures and the base variants, and doing those isn't challenging at all. And what you're doing then is you're trying to complete the difficult variants and earn all these perks into the patrons, right? So I am in game because I am, I've got over 90% of the variants done for all of these. And the ones that aren't done tend to be the more difficult ones, and I still challenge myself with those. I could probably just knock them all out, or most of them, but I tend to save those for streams. So yeah, that's one way to look at it. So you need to complete all the variants to fill out all the perks. Not all of them, no. We now have far more variants than are required to actually to max that out. We passed that a while back, so you just need to do a good chunk of them to fill out all the perks. What's the best way to spend patron currency? I.e., what would you prioritize for purchase? Everyone's going to have a different goal they're working towards in the shop. I know people hate it when I say that, but this game, it's all subjective. A lot of people prioritize time gate pieces. I still buy mine every week, even though I've got too many. Why is that saying 0? That's a thing. I've got 52. But I don't, all my champions I have all the champions and they're all fully epic, and I have a fully completed collection, so I don't need to run time gates. But I still buy that piece just in case, right? Because, if I get bad luck on an event champion and I don't get them in full epics, I can run some time gates, and I can combine time gate runs with purchasing chests to get them epics. I don't tend to buy any of the potions anymore. I'm just better about how I use my potions. I'm a bit of a hoarder. People know that. So I tend to save potions either for stuff I do on stream or for like deep pushes in an event for favor or for really difficult variants. So I tend to not run out anymore. I do buy my Modron component chest each week, even though, as you saw earlier, I do have a fully epic flow in my Modron core. But I do own both cores, and I do still need to level up that second core and deck it out. So I'm making sure I have plenty of components to do that with. Some people like to work towards these specific goals up here by saving stuff, right? So saving up things. Potion of Polish is a good one to save up for early on because, again, that's a nice boost. Certain feats, if there's a feat you want to target, you kind of have to make these goals for yourself. And figure out what it's worth to you. Like, you could skip over the skins if you own these champions already and don't care about a skin. But if you don't own them, it does unlock them. So, well, I don't know if it unlocks Drist, actually. I think you can get Warden, right? Yeah, this unlocks them if you don't own them. It doesn't say that for Dritz, though. But, like, how much you spend on patron chest each week is kind of up to you. Again, like I said, I tend to think you should make sure you get those core evergreen epics out of the way, and then you can start, fleshing out your event champions bit by bit. But I don't think you should spend all your currency each week if you've got stuff down here that you still want to get. Like, figure out a budget, spend, say, I'm going to buy one chest a week, maybe. But this is going to cost you a lot. Like, if you buy a Modron chest and a time gate piece, there's 7,500 currency. Like, there's the bulk of what you made that week, right? So early on, you might have to decide, do I want a Modron component chest or do I want a patron chest? Do I just want time gate pieces? Where you are in your progression is going to determine that. You don't have to buy everything right away. Has anyone done Strahd's Tiamat's Army variant? I think currently with feats, there are only 4 to 5 characters that qualify. There are a handful of variants that are like that, where you just don't get a lot of champions in them. Some are easier than others. I just tried Lulz Prisoners on stream, which is a Sword Coast one for Strahd, earlier this week, and I think we pushed up to about 30 levels away from beating it, but it wasn't going to happen. And that's just something where, when I max out my Modron core, I can try again, but I don't think my Modron core is going to get me 30 levels, but I may have to wait for more Now that we have a new campaign, maybe with some new global blessings, once we get more tiers, then I can go back and finish that. So that's how you're going to end up. Sometimes, like I said earlier, sometimes you're just going to have to wait until they've added more power to the game. And keep in mind, is that kind of there was a follow up question there about as they add more, maybe they'll add more champs that qualify for it in the future. Yeah, I mean, look, we're getting a new champ next week, right? We don't know what her stats are yet, but we're going to get Esmeralda de Avenir. We know she qualifies for Strahd because she's from Barovia, or at least we are assuming she qualifies for Strahd. She better. I think they said though already that she qualifies for all patrons. So they're constantly adding new champions to the game, but sometimes it isn't the champions that are going to help you out because we don't know. Sometimes they could add a new champion, but it's in a slot that there was already a champion there for. So, maybe they add more power to you, swapping them out. Maybe they don't. Sometimes you're just going to have to wait for other progression systems to be added to the game. Like, again, we're getting more blessings for Icewind Dale now. That can help. Is there a penalty for resetting your influence? No. We covered that a couple times. Which patron is the best for beard maintenance? I no idea. I don't think. Wait, do any of them even? Does Mert have a beard? He's got a mustache. He'd probably know more about maintenance, so probably Mert. How much influence do you need to max out challenge accepted? I don't get into the crunchiness of those details. If you ask in Discord, there's probably somebody who can tell you exactly how much you need for each to max out each specific one. Yeah, that's not a thing that I keep in my memory banks because it doesn't really do me any good at this point. But someone probably wrote it down somewhere. What are some good easy variants to start with? Oh, that's difficult to say. Let me look on this account because this is newer, and I did do some variants in Sword Coast to unlock Dritz. Again, I did Arya Chicken, but again, this isn't necessarily for variants. Like, this is going to be super difficult for a Mert variant, but you're going to want to look at things that have, look at the area requirement. The lower, the better. But then look at what this is going to restrict you on and make a decision. So I did these. Some of these I knew I could do. I knew I had more than enough power to do ones where I was missing slots. But like something like this, I don't think is overly difficult because the variant requirement is going to be higher. But as long as if you've got enough to unlock power to unlock Mert, you could probably beat this, right? So you have to look at things like that. And just know that whenever you're losing slots like this, you're losing a lot of power out of those champions. And you may not be able to build it out the way that normally buffs things well. So, yeah. It's really power dependent. And that's where you have to get smart. That's, like I said, this is why one of those things about transitioning from early game to mid game, some parts of it is state of mind and your abilities, right? And not necessarily what you've reached in the game. Like it's partly about what you can actually do. Is the Green Flame Mage Hand a patron reward? No, it is not. That was a special reward. Darth Details from I think the Green Flame Mage Hand, I believe, was from PAX. There was like a code for it. I think it was Karmic Mad Jig, which was a play on Gem Dark Magic. I don't know that it's still valid anymore. I don't know that it still works. But all the Green Flame stuff were giveaways that were linked to Penny Arcade, but aren't necessarily active. They may be available in other ways now, but yeah, it wasn't a patron thing. Would 5 spec potions for 5k be reasonable? Honestly, Mean Keb, I really don't know. I just don't think that if you're pricing an epic potion for 2,000, pricing a common potion for 5,000 makes a whole lot of sense. I also don't use a lot of specialization potions anymore. So I have like over 100 in my inventory, so it's not something I would ever want. Um, I just don't think. I mean, they're used for either fixing a mistake that you made when you were setting up your specializations, or for adjusting your specialization as you get further into a run. Right? To me, that's just a lot. That's a lot to spend a limited currency on, even at 5 for 5,000. I don't know. Let's see what else have we got for patrons. Are the weekly challenges the same for every player each week or random? They're roughly the same. Like I said, they're going to vary. When it's state-specific champions, those are going to be player specifics in a certain way, because if you don't have the event champion that someone else does, like it may be like Tyrell, Grama, and Walnut for me because I own all champions. But if you don't own all champions, it may be Tyrell, Jamila, and Archon, right? Like, it's going to make an adjustment to make sure that you can do that challenge with the champions that you own, but the rest will be the same. That's where it makes the differentiation, is in what event champion you own. Let's see how we're doing. Okay. What is the pity timer on patron chests? 1 to 10 like regular gold chests? Yep. I believe just like with any other chest, the first time you... Well, let me move something here so I can keep an eye on stream quality. The first time you probably get that chest, usually the first time you get any unique chest, it's going to be... your pity timer is going to be down to 4 out of 10. But then once you get that first epic, then it resets and it's 1 to 10 like normal. Is Strahd from 2020? I don't remember when they added Strahd. I don't know if it was this year or last year. This year feels so long. I think it was this year. Yeah. No, it had to be this year because we got both. We got 2. We started off with 2 with Mert and Vajra, and that was last year. So I think we got Strahd this year. For what champions do I get gear with each patron chest? Is there any way to look it up? Well, it's whatever champions qualify for that patron. So the best way to figure that out is to hop into a free play and see which champions you have available for that patron in that free play out of your champion pool. That's going to tell you right away which champions you're going to get gear for. And again, you can manipulate that pool by either adding a feat to that person, like equipping a feat that qualifies them, or removing it if you don't want them to get gear. So like in Strahd, which is the one that people like to add lots of people for, you can add a feat on like Grama and Zorbu to make them accessible for Strahd. But if you don't want gear to go to them, you can remove those feats before you open a Strahd chest so that it doesn't land on them. Let's see. I'm finishing Mert Patron, and I'm stuck on the last quest with limited champs and formations, which I think are the hardest ones, like Close Escort. The quests are green, but I can't seem to complete them. Do you have formation suggestions for those kinds of quests? So keep in mind, again, the quests are green because that is you must be at least this tall to ride a ride type of measurement. It is not accurate in terms of the difficulty measurements. It's just saying they're literally those difficulty ratings that come with adventures and variants are based on the amount of favor you have in a campaign. So as long as you meet that minimum favor requirement, it's going to show as green. It's a great rule of thumb when you're a brand new player to know whether you should even attempt something or not. But it doesn't mean that just because it shows green, you can finish it. You still need to look at those restrictions to see. Close Escort, if I remember correctly, I think Close Escort's the one where you lose slots over time. Anything that you lose slots over time for, you need to... This is a whole other conversation I'm not going to get into now, but people can help you out on the Discord. You need to bud spike. You need to be able to hop back to when you have all of your slots, set your bud, jump forward with a fire breath potion, and then just burn through things with clicks. If it's just like Are You Chicken, where you never have those formation slots. You just have to build the best possible formation with the slots that you're given. And if you can't finish them, wait until you've got more power from somewhere else. It may be that you need more. Again, you may need more blessings, like global blessings from various campaigns. You may need more global perks from other patrons. You may need to level up your Modron core and get your flow higher. Like there's lots of different ways to. There's lots of different levers to pull to get you that power. Regarding removing evergreens from an item pool, I had multiple cases of getting only one item upgraded from like nothing white to green on an event champion. The safe blue item becoming a duplicate on an evergreen. So I figured that might not only want all my evergreens to be full epic, but all my event champions to be full green at least to guarantee the blue. Hopefully purple item dropping from an event champ. I'm missing out on something. I mean, I think you kind of grasped that. I mean, you get full epics on your core and evergreens so that any guaranteed upgrade goes to an event champion. And that could be, if you don't have an item in that slot, that could be a green or a blue or an epic. There is a guaranteed blue in every gold chest, but it's not guaranteed to not be a duplicate. If it will be unique if you don't have, it should be unique if you don't have full blues. I just geared all my core evergreens out that way to blue, and it followed those rules. And then epics are just at random. You're not guaranteed that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of mostly true, but the way you're going to get that gear on those champions is by opening those patron chests. But, if you don't have any gear in certain slots, then patron chests may not be the most effective way to do that. That's where you may want to prioritize time gates first, right? And at least get those greens and blues on those champions before you start popping patron chests. In general, I just think if you're willing to, if you want to use your patron currency effectively, you're not spending that currency. You're not opening those chests right away. You're not even buying them right away. You're just leaving that, just bank up that currency, in my opinion, and focus on epicking out those core and evergreen champs. I think the last one here specifically for patrons. Since they're limited, do I keep buying Modron chests even though I'm already level 15 with all epic nodes? That's up to you. The question I would ask is, have you fully epicked out all of your champions yet? If not, maybe that 5,000 is better spent on a patron chest each week for something that's going to potentially get you an upgrade. Because, that's probably the better use of your power if you're already at epic flow and level 15. Because I don't know when we're going to get a third core that you're going to need more items for. So I think that's all the patron stuff. So let me go back through and try to answer all the rest of the questions we have. General questions. Anyone know what Aural's Blessing of ×2 the damage means? That means double damage. It doesn't mean 200%. It means 100% bonus. 100% is ×2. So, right, if you're increasing something by 100%, that means you're doubling it. Is there an approximate favor wall where the only way to increase it is through event time gate conversions? No. But there is a point where eventually you're going to be, it's not worth your time to increase it regularly, and events and time gates are the better ways. You have E36 Torms. Yeah. I mean, if you can do a Torm run and get a significant amount, but a significant is a vague term. So like in an event, I can get into the E40s in favor, which means I'm getting 5 times multiplier. So, over a 400% increase, right? If you're getting less than that in a regular run, significantly less than that, then why would you spend your time doing that run? Right, there's other things you could be doing. You don't need the favor at that point, generally speaking, in Torms and anywhere at E36, I don't think. Maybe, well, no. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's good everywhere. Hold on, let me double check. Let me look at mine. Yeah, I've got E29 in Kellamvor, and that's way more than I need there. E31 in Helms, and I'm fine.
E37 and Tiamat, but yeah, I mean, Tiamat, you might need a little more just because of Tale of Two Champions. That's only completable with click damage now. So, yeah, so I don't think that, I think you could, at that point, you can just convert your time gates and events into the campaign of your choice. In the Gems visual aid, it shows familiars up to Boo in the second to last tier. I'm currently working on getting the Unicorn Rodent one. That's the All Mirage. But I'm full epic with Evergreen already. Is Boo considered the last familiar worth the gem cost, or is it still worth saving up for the other really expensive ones versus silver chests or a second core? So the Gems visual aid was made before Modrons and those super expensive familiars came out. It just hasn't been updated yet. But at that point, hopefully you've kind of understood where we're going and can make those decisions. Boo, it isn't that Boo is considered the last familiar worth the gem cost. It's just that was the last familiar, the highest price one that existed when we made that guide. So is it really worth saving for the other really expensive ones? Kind of up to you. Do you need those? And is the only way you're going to get those via saving up? I don't own those last three, like the 100, the 150, and the 200K familiars. I don't own yet. I prioritize my second core first. But even then I spent gems on other things on my way to that second core. I just budgeted along the way. And I hit level 14 before I unlocked my second level 14 on my first core before I unlocked my second core. So it was pretty good timing. And now I can start, saving up for what I usually save. I buy lots of gold chests every event. I don't buy silver chests. I'm one of those weird players. Some people spend all their gems on silvers only. But I'm also 2 shinies away from having silvers on all of my core and evergreen. So real shortly, shinies out of normal chests aren't going to matter to me. So again, it's kind of all about where you are in your progression. But yeah, once as I budget myself to buy the gold chests that I still want for every event to make sure that I get all of the feats for the new champions, I will slowly be saving up to pick up those next 3 familiars as well. Because I do want them. It's just I don't necessarily need them right away. Am I going to unlock Azaka on my Marzuar account? I mean, we're like 3 variants away. I should be able to knock those out between now and next Thursday. I do a Marzuar challenge stream Thursday mornings on my channel, Twitch TV/Gaarawarr. It's basically a veteran player playing on a brand new account. It's only 5 weeks old at this point. And kind of getting a good look at kind of what's the efficient ways of moving through campaigns. And you can, if you're a newer player and you want to see what it looks like and ask questions, you can hit me up over there every week. But yeah, next week we'll probably do the Azaka run. I am probably going to knock out 2 time gates this weekend because there's the natural one that I'm in the middle of. And then I have enough pieces to do a manual one, and I'd really like to pick up a speed champion. So I'm going to do that, and then I will focus on making sure we're ready to do Azaka on Thursday. Why is Mad Wizard better for gems? Mad Wizard has a bunch, like in the first 30 levels, they're kind of generally considered to be the fastest 30 levels in any regularly accessible free play because they have enemy spawners that are either portals or some other device that just dumps enemies out real quickly. And if you can kill them as fast as they spawn, then they spawn super fast and you fly through levels, comparatively speaking. So people like to gem farm somewhere where it's efficient and quick. And that's where they do. When was my Marzuar stream? Thursdays on my channel. So Thursday mornings at, I want to say 10 a.m. Pacific, because we do it for about 3 hours and then we go raid the CNE dev stream afterwards. And that's always fun. I also stream on Tuesdays for an hour starting at noon Pacific. And we just talk about anything and everything. That's my idle chatter stream. So we talk about whatever the new content is and what's coming up and theories and, both of those times. Are the weekly challenges? Oh, we did that one already. Yes, the weekly challenges are roughly the same for each player. They only change based off the champions you own. Do you know when we'll get another event? I was loving those. Next week. Next week. If you're a newer player, they did kind of throw off their normal schedule a little bit because they've had a couple weeks lately where they've done like 2 content weeks in a row, and this was one of them, mainly because they dropped a new campaign on us. But the normal method of content delivery is an event starts on the first week, like on a Wednesday, and then the next Wednesday you're still in the middle of the event. But then the Wednesday after that, so into that third week, the event has ended, and then they do a content week, and then the Wednesday after that, they're back into another event. So events are on like a 3-week cycle. So we get an event next Wednesday. It's going to be Liar's Night Year 4. The Year 2 champion that we get is, because there's only 3 champions available in any event, so it's the most recent 3. So Year 2 is going to be Dinar, who you see on screen right now in his Yum Yum Hut outfit. The Year 3 champion is going to be Avrin. Both of these champions are solid. Avrin is the number 1 buffer in the game, so you definitely want to pick him up and get some gear for him. I love Dinar. I think Dinar is a very good boy. He's super helpful with Azaka and Dragonbait. I think he's one of the champions I say if you're having trouble on Dragonbait, you need to pick up Dinar. Dinar will help you a good amount. Because you need that. You need his heals. He's a Healy boy, and he's got some crowd control and some buffs, and he's an all-around good boy. Whereas Azaka, Azaka is unlocked in the Tomb of Annihilation campaign, as I kind of showed on the screen a minute ago. She's pretty deep in there, so you got to get to right around Tomb of the Nine Gods. She's got 2 different variants, unlike other Evergreen champions. She has 2 variants you have to complete: Azaka's Procession Part 1 and Azaka's Procession Part 2. But you do have to have completed 30 total adventures or variants in Tomb of Annihilation to even start Azaka's Procession Part 1. So the way I did Dragonbait was doing a test run to figure out a formation for the serious attempt, and when I hit my wall, I had already passed the requirement to unlock Dragonbait. So where does that place me in terms of early to mid game? Well, you didn't tell me if you actually unlocked Dragonbait. But that test run, because it's going to be, well, I mean, the test run should give you a decent idea, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're close, right? Like, did you unlock Dragonbait, Badger Buccaneer? That tells me. You can put that in chat. I'm looking at chat right now, too, as well as these questions, because we're almost done with the question list. Does anything we fashion as a question get answered? No. Does C&E do events that affect chest drop rates? I averaged an epic or feat every other chest a week ago. No, that's just Carving Custom. That's just RNG. That was some really good RNG for you. I have had events where I only had like 1 or 2 epics. That tends to be my minimum that I get with the amount of event tokens I get from bounty contracts. And I've had events where that same number of tokens got me full epics. So RNG plays a lot into it. I'm not seeing an update. Maybe they're not here anymore. All right. Almost 1 month of game time and recently unlocked Modron and the second Patron. Wow, that's fast for a month. Good job. What would be the best to buy with gems from here? Hoard for second core or just go for gold, silver chests? Well, again, you're going to want to check that gem visual aid, but if you're not fully epicked out on your core and evergreen champions, you're probably going to be wanting to buy gold chests. That second core is not necessary at all, especially if you've only just unlocked Modron. Yeah, that's a lot. Well, if I passed the requirement to unlock him, I guess I did unlock it. Well, you said you passed the requirement on a test run, right? But I thought I wasn't sure if that was on a free play for Asoriel's Lamet, or if you actually did a test run on Asoriel's Resolve and then beat it. There's information I was missing there. Um, what's the code? The code's Patron Strahd this week. Let's see. Did you ever try the Show of Strength Patron variants? Yes. This is doable without huge amounts of favor. So the favor requirements for most patrons are just about, can you hit the soft cap before, like, at a decent position, or do you have to farm for it? Because remember, favor doesn't do anything for you really once you've hit the soft cap. So, yeah. Generally speaking, that's more about making sure your champions are well geared, as long as you've got that minimum amount of favor to soft cap. Make sure your champions are well geared, and make sure that you've got, global blessings and global perks and Modron buffs and whatnot. Does the heavy hitter blessings work off of base cooldown or base attacks, or does it only scale if final base down cooldown? So this is a blessing reference. I believe it's off whatever their current cooldown is. So whether their current base attack cooldown meets the requirement or not should trigger it. Now keep in mind, there's one for fast attacks and one for slow attacks. So early on, it's probably not going to matter so much. But later on, or like once you get them both, it doesn't matter because you're going to get that buff one way or the other. But early, so it really only matters, like that differentiation really only matters early on when you're just maxing one out. But it should be based off whatever their current stuff is, based off what's going on in the game. Let's see. Okay, so Badger Buccaneer was doing a test run in the thing. Yeah, I mean, you always just test out. It doesn't hurt. Like that's the thing about patron variants and regular variants. It doesn't hurt just to try them. I mean, you'll lose some time, but you'll at least know where you're at and what you have to do. It's not like event variants. Event variants you do not want to test. You want to make sure they show as green first, and you want to read the requirements. And I put tips in my guide saying, and I generally try to say, well, you might want a little more, even more gold than green and stuff like that, just so you understand how difficult those requirements are. Because you can waste your attempts and your tokens in events. Do you have any pet names for champions? Like Jax for Jarlaxle or Ishi Boy. Yes, I know she just seems to be like a tomboy. I think we generally refer to Jamila in the community as Jam Jam. I think they do that internally at CNE as well. I can't remember where it started. I just know that Jam Jam is a thing. Other than that, like the Hitch has a nickname when he's in his Mind Flayer skin, and that's Mitch. And that's just Mars termed that for Mind Flayer Hitch, which is better than my nickname that I gave him, which was MF Hitch, which, I think was probably a little rude, but I thought it was nice. But yeah, Mitch is for Mind Flayer Hitch. I don't know if we have any other, like off the top of my head, I don't know that I've given, like that I give nicknames to them. I just know we usually refer to Jamila as Jam Jam. Pirate Skin Jarlaxle should be Yarlaxle. I'm down for that. I'm down for the pirate puns. Oh, we do have Barrel. Yeah, the Tyrrell in his bear form is Barrel. And Tyrrell in his moose, like in his new moose form, if you have that skin, is Mooserel. Sure. Dinar's a good boy, but there's a lot of... I call a lot of people good boy now, but Dinar is the original good boy. The patron skin for Warden cost 8 million? You mean the influence cost? I think you're talking about the influence requirement, because the patron cost isn't 8 million. It's 20,000 ruby coins. Right? But the influence requirement is probably 8 EO6, right? Because that's 8 million. I can't tell. It doesn't tell me. I wish it did. But you can definitely get, there's definitely enough variance in the game for you to get that. I have 10 million, right? I have 1 EO7. So you can get there. You just haven't yet. Did I miss the chest giveaway? No, there's just a code on screen. Or you can type code, like exclamation point code in chat. I think somebody just did that above. Patron Strahd is the code. Have you considered if you take your beard and make it into a form of a toupee, you could have a hairstyle like Polnareff from JoJo's Bizarre? I have never watched that, so no, I haven't, and I would never do that. Should I open this Strahd chest based on my evergreen progress being low still? Or so I shouldn't open this Strahd chest based on my evergreen progress being low still. You can if you want. Just know that there's a chance that that gear is going to land on your evergreens instead of events. And I mean, like if you have a challenge that says open a Strahd chest, then go ahead and pop it. But in general, I don't buy chests unless a challenge wants me to, or I'm trying to epic out a champion. See, will epics still turn up in regular gold chests if you have all core evergreens purple? Yeah, sure, but they'll be duplicates, right? It'll just be a random duplicate because you have them all. And then when they add a new evergreen to the game, which they do regularly, then suddenly you'll have an evergreen that needs gear again, and you'll need lots of those gold chests again to epic them out. Is there any way to check how much favor you need for an adventure to swap difficulty recommendation color? No, there isn't. I tried to come up with the determination of that for events, and even in events, it's different. So it's going to be way different in regular campaigns. But I figured events would even be the same in every event, but it isn't. It's even a different floor sometimes in events. So yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing there. Let's see. I'm trying to budget out if I can buy some blessings, but I don't want to go back to farming. Like in that case, look, you need to be spending. If you can afford to spend on good blessings that give you a power, you do it. Like you spend on blessings until the pop-up comes up and tells you you can't afford it. Like here, I know that I can't afford it here. Like here, so I keep my warnings enabled. I click here. Oh, hey, I did a run. Okay, but now it comes up and says no. Or it says, hey, this is a warning. Are you sure you want to do it? Well, you nope right out of those. But as long as you can do it without that pop-up, you spend it, right? Because that's going to give you power. Because again, it isn't just because it says it's easy doesn't mean it's going to be easy. The power that you get from upping those blessings is going to help you complete it. That's just the green and easy thing is just, I consider it the minimum amount that you should have before you do it. It may be doable before that, but it may not. Here's a pic of Polnareff. Thanks, Jay. No, that's not. Yeah, that's not a thing I would do. Let's see. Isn't the nickname for Delana as evil or something like that? No, it's just Delana is a meme now in Idle Champions. She's fine now, but she gets memed on. Because for so long she just was not great. Keep trying to push Tyrrellwinkle for the moose form, but no one cares. Yeah, Mooserel. Because we already set a precedent with Barrel, right? So now the animal comes first, and then Rill comes at the end. So it's Mooserel. Do you recommend doing patron variants in the same order? In the same order, like as you did them in the regular version? Like I don't do them in order in general, but I mean you kind of just because you have to judge how difficult they are and then do them. So it isn't necessarily going to be in the order that they appear in the game. Variants aren't. They may throw them to you that way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's how you do them. Do you get a shiny back if you get its GE? So like if you have a shiny item in a slot and then you pick up the golden epic for that slot, do you get the shiny back? Well, you get a potion of polish back. So if you do not have, say, Alcoria's golden epic, but you have a shiny for that slot, and then you buy the golden epic out of the shop, it refunds you a potion of polish. And again, potion of polish is a way to put a shiny on any champion, not just a specific one. So yeah, or like not just say a limited, like because sometimes a shiny is going to come naturally out of a chest that includes that either that specific champion or a small group of champions. A potion of polish can go everywhere. I got two more questions regarding the last global blessing of the Avernus campaign. Does it scale linear or multiplicative? I think Margaret answered on stream that it's an additive, like the 10% goes up additively. Do patron variants count as additional variants and further increase the global buff's power? Yes. So yeah. Order of regular runs like we're doing on the challenge. Oh, like do you do patron variants in the specific? So for the Mars of War challenge, this is a Mars of War challenge question. You got to throw that in there because I didn't know that's what you're talking about. For like the Mars of War challenge, when it comes to variants, when we have to do a certain number of variants, you can do whichever variants you want. You can just hand pick them. When we get to the point where we're doing patrons, again, you'll only have a certain number of variants done, but I mean, at some point we'll have to then do more variants, right? Yeah, we're not to that point yet, so I haven't even really put a lot of thought into that. All right, and I think we're wrapping up. We're coming in hot. All right. You mentioned a racing game you played in a stream a while back, but I forgot. Could you tell us? Oh, Carvin Custom. I play a lot of Motorsport Manager, which is on Steam, but it's also on, like, I think there's different versions of it on tablets and mobile potentially too. I don't play those versions. I play the Steam version. It's basically a management strategy game, not unlike Idle Champions, but it's all about like car racing, like Formula One style. Yeah, I may do streams like of that. I keep saying I'm going to do streams of Motorsport Manager, and I just haven't got around to it yet. One day. I think we've fully caught up in chat now. That was about 50 questions today. So I think we probably lost some people in some questions, or lost some people when we had the technical difficulties earlier. Man, I wish Streamlabs would fix that. It doesn't even tell me anything. It even tells me when I try to close Streamlabs that Streamlabs is still going. Like, you're still streaming. No, I'm not. I'm looking at it. I'm not streaming. Clarification. So veterans or the Avernus blessing, it only counts the variants in Avernus, not the whole campaign. It's the Avernus campaign. So it's like, hold on. It considers this, like, it considers this part of the Avernus campaign, so it should include those two. If it doesn't, you can put in a ticket and say it doesn't seem to be, well, because we don't see the total. So until they give us a total down here, we don't know. But increase the damage of all champions by 10% for every Avernus adventure, and what they're saying by that is every adventure in the Descent into Avernus campaign. That's the way I read it. But if you want more clarification about specific things like that, like, that's best to ask the actual developer, because I didn't make those rules. Okay, had to mute there first. What is better, grinding a time gate till it's done or doing patron variants? Ew. I mean, you do the time gate and you complete the time gate and then you leave the time gate. Grinding favor isn't usually something you do necessarily in a time gate. I mean, you get enough favor to be able to complete the adventure and the variants, but that's about it. And then you leave, and then you go do something else. Oh, the Avernus variant over all campaigns makes you wonder. Well, the overall campaigns is their way of telling you that this is a global blessing that applies over all campaigns. It's their wording for global. They need to clean that up, but they need to better differentiate the fact that this is like they did with perks. Perks are basically, they did right. Like, they show local and global, and then they don't have to put that terminology in. But that's basically because in some platforms, it doesn't actually, like on Steam, it shows, on PC, it shows that I'm on the left and then the one on the right. And we could easily say the ones on the left are local and the one on the right is global. But I think on some platforms, it just shows them in a list. So they have to use that terminology to tell you that it's a global buff. Anything else? Are retired champions going to be in time gates? So I think by that I just call them time gate champions now, but and I don't like the term retired necessarily, but whatever. Uh, Event champions from year one are like that originally released in an event are now only available in time gates. So I've just started calling them time gate champions. So all of those year one event champions are now available only in time gates. Next year, like next event year, it'll be all year one and year two champions, right? It's anything that is no longer available in an event, any champion that's no longer available when the event they were introduced with rolls around, will be available in time gates. I've got enough pieces for 2 gates. If I do 2 time gates, if I do one and then the second right after, does the favor carry over? No. Once you complete that, it forces you to convert the favor and then you start a new one. Why are Gaarawarr's familiars not doing a click animation? Is there a setting to disable it? There is. And I specifically do that for streams. Oops, that's the wrong button. I kind of just keep it on all the time, but it's this disable flashing and lighting effects because they flash when they click. So it's like down at the bottom it says click touch animations on familiars. So they just kind of hover and move around. They don't click, but that's so that people don't have issues with like seizures and stuff. Do you have a guide for new players? Ragnar helps you out there. I've got more than one. There's a lot. Start with like the 101 guides. If you do like this video type of format, like the stream type format, you can find all the videos at the CNE Games YouTube channel. They're all saved now under the heading that just says Gaarawarr's Guides. And then when you open them, it's like Gaarawarr's Guides to Multiplayer and Modron, Gaarawarr's Guides to Formation Strategy. So that's this type of stream, and you can watch them all. Whereas Gaarawarr's Guide to Everything, which is also on the CNE YouTube channel, is more of just a Q&A session like we're doing here at the end. So if you want specific topics, you can get them from Gaarawarr's Guides on the CNE YouTube channel, or you can grab them, or you can read the written guides I've done. I do need to do some updates to those, but that's coming slowly. And I think we're going to call it there. I think I've covered the time that I missed. Answered all the questions. We did answer all the questions today, which is great. Yay! Feel real bad about disappearing. Man, I thought we nailed all the technical difficulties, but oh well. So, Monday there are new streams. There are 2 new streams. We've seen one before, but starting off Monday morning, we get a new stream called Champions of Lore, and that's going to be with B. Dave Walters, Aaron M. Evans, and I think Trevor Betis from Difficulty Class Podcast, I think. They're going to talk about the lore of Idle Champions for like an hour, Monday mornings. And then Monday afternoons, we get Improvised Champions with Mark Meir and Christina Ariel and a Masked Lord of Waterdeep, where they do improv while playing through a game. Like they voice the characters and they have their own characters. It's pretty neat. So all that stuff is coming on Monday and starts the weekly stream, like week of streams. There's now streams Monday through Saturday for Idle Champions related content, so you can check all that out starting on Monday. I'll be back again with the Gaarawarr's Guide to Everything next Friday. And then the specific Gaarawarr's Guide for next week, I'll just tell you in advance, is going to be Gaarawarr's Guide to Events. So if you want to learn, stuff about how events work, we will be in the middle of Liar's Night. That's why we timed it that way, because it's hard to do a guide to events without one running. But we'll do a deep dive into events and talk about all those things, and you can ask questions while we're in the middle of one to help you finish Liar's Night. So thanks for coming out, everybody. I appreciate it. Thank you to CNE for having me, of course, and putting up with my technical difficulties. And Jay, thank you for pulling all the questions. I will see you all next week. Have a good weekend, everybody.